Lucas here with Marabou Fly Shop. Today we're going to be tying up one of Phil Rowley's signature patterns in the Balanced Leech. This is an awesome stillwater pattern, awesome in the bow, just an all-around awesome pattern. Phil has absolutely killed this one. So without further ado, we're going to be tying this today in a bloody black. You can tie it in just about every color you can think of, whether it's a claret, whether it's olive, Canadian burnt orange, black, white, you name it. So today we're going to be tying this usually on a Daiichi 4640, which I do not have today. Fret not, as long as you have a 60-degree jig, even a 90-degree, and you're in a size 10, size 12, you'll be totally okay. So for thread, we're going to be using UTC 70 in black. So for this, we're just going to start our thread on our hook shank here. Trim off our excess. So next, we're going to be tying in our pin. So Hareline has come out with these pins specifically for balanced flies. These are awesome. They come in 80 packs. And they are amazing. So I've got one here. And for our bead today, we're going to be using a Plummeting Tungsten in 1/8. So when we put the bead on, we're actually going to reverse it. So we're going to go big side first. So with this, usually what I'll do is I will trim off some of the pin just with a pair of side cutters. If you have any side cutter, that will work fine. So with this, we're just trying to get that balance point correct. So typically what I'll do is I'll just get it somewhat tied on. Let's do a quick half hitch. And I will usually take just like a standard piece of monofilament. I'm going to take our piece of tippet here, and I'm just going to thread it through the eye of our hook, just like so. So when this fly is suspended in the water, it's going to actually sit perfectly horizontal. So right now my pin is a little forward heavy, but usually I have found that having it a bit forward heavy just with the pin on, once everything else is tied in, it will perfectly balance out the fly. So I'm just going to come in again with my thread, just make sure everything is nice and secure in our tail. So typically I'll go about halfway to the bend of the hook. So next, what we're going to be doing is tying in our tail. So for this, we're just going to be using black Marabou. And for the length, I'll just go to about one length of our hook shank. I like to just tie it in from the tip. Every fly is exactly the same. I'm just going to get one secure wrap on there. Now what I'll do is I'll just trim out our feather. Sometimes you have a couple little pesky fibers that just don't want to sit, and that's totally okay. You can always cover it up. Next, we're going to be tying in our Flashabou. So today we're going to be using Pearl Ice Blue. I'm just going to grab 2 strands here. I'm just going to trim those out. So what I'm going to do is actually fold it over our thread. So I'm going to wrap the 2 on the close side to us, just to where we've tied in our tail. Now for the side furthest from us, I'm going to do the same, so they're perfectly in line with our tail. And as we trim these, I'm going to leave it about 1/4 of an inch past our Marabou. So our next step here is we're just going to create a dubbing loop. So I'm just going to come over top, create a loop with our finger in the back here, and what I'm going to do is wrap our thread around it about 2 or 3 times, secure it on top of the shank. I'm going to pull it over top and wrap rearwards to our tie-in point. I'm just going to hang this on my vise, so as I work this thread forward here, I'm just going to get a few more securing wraps underneath that pin. Just kind of figure eighting it and wrapping forwards towards the bead, and I'm going to stop there. For our dubbing today, we're going to be using Hareline's STS, Trilobal, and Bloody Black Leech. So you don't want to use too much dubbing. Sometimes they can become too bulky. Usually what I like to do is add about 1 inch clump. Always add more, but usually I try and tie this as sparse as I can. If you can't see through it, or it's a little bit too full, you should be able to see your hand behind it. So once I've got a dubbing loop that's about 4 inches long, we are ready to start spinning this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brush out our dubbing loop, get any trapped fibers from out of the loop. They also have a stainless steel version, which is an awesome tool. Do not recommend brushing your teeth with it, but it is also a wicked tool. Just brush out your dubbing loop, and now we are ready to start wrapping this. What I'll do is I'll just start wrapping this all the way to about the bead. Usually I'll tuck it in just above the eye of the hook, and we're going to secure our dubbing loop just behind our bead. A few secure wraps. So now that we've got our D loop nice and secure, we can trim off our D loop here, and we're just going to do our whip finish. Trim off our excess thread. So now that we've got our leech here, we're just going to double check it sits perfectly. So typically, if you have it a little bit forward as you tie it, you will have a perfectly balanced leech.